It's no lie that current Red Hood comics sell awfully, generally outside of or just barely in the top 150 in sales. It's pretty clear, despite this character's popularity in the greater media like movies and games, that no one's really interested in his comics. And I think it's clear why. I am no marketing expert, but when it comes to the business of, well, anything, you want a product that's unique, one that your consumers can't get anywhere else. In short, you want your product to stand out in some way, shape, or form. Like, for example, you can't get a delicious soda-like taste for the low cost of 5 calories with 0 sugar from anywhere else but sparkling ice. No, this isn't an ad. I wasn't paid to say this. The example just fits into the point I'm making, and I'm severely addicted to this drink. This is more so a cry for help for my crippling addiction. Please send help. Barbara, my queen, help me please! Anyways, I think the reason why Jason is struggling to sell is because he's lacking qualities that make him stand out, unless you consider being the most repetitive and boring character in DC's catalog to be a unique and interesting niche. If so, well, more power to you, homie. But to most regular human beings, this just ain't cutting it. What I'm trying to say is, Jason desperately needs a reset, and gladly for y'all, I know exactly where to reset Jason to. So, my goal for this video is to develop this Jason as close to what his modern incarnation is like as organically as possible while maintaining a unique niche for him. Spoiler alert, it's not going to resemble modern Jason as we know him very much. It will resemble him in spirit, if that makes any sense. But first, let's define the goal behind what modern Jason is supposed to be like, based on how he's been written since the New 52. I believe the intention was for Jason to be a person who over time grows up and realizes the flaws in his ideology and personhood, eventually rejoining the Bat family. DC's execution was plain bad, rushed, and comical at times, but I think that's what they intended. I think Jason rejoining the Bat family contradicts one of my goals in this video by stifling his potential for storytelling by getting rid of his unique niche. So I'm just sticking with the first part. I'll attempt to have Jason grow up and develop into a more positive force to his world on his second lease on life, while maintaining the things that make him unique and stand out. So, without further ado, as my grandpappy used to say, let's get this shit poppin', B. In my previous video, I said in order to make massive changes to a character, you must actually engage with what came before. What do I mean by this and how is it applicable to this video? Well, what I'm trying to say is I'm going to have to build up Jason's foundational character traits to deconstruct it. So the first part of Jason I want to focus on is his ideology when it comes to fighting crime, and the pros and cons of it since it segues nicely into everything else I want to talk about. I'm going to use my overview from my previous video to get those uninitiated up to speed. Jason under Jude Winnick was a morally great character who was kind of split in half by his selfish and selfless motivations. On one hand, Jason was a vigilante who believed crime can't be stopped, only contained. So he decided to take on Batman's philosophy of controlling crime with fear to its neurological endpoint, by becoming a part of the crime eating away at Gotham and controlling it from the inside using a fear of death to coerce criminals into following his rules to enact positive change. So, it's unclear the exact point that birthed this ideology for Jason, but I would like to give a backdrop to the story of Under the Hood, for us to get context on how such an extreme ends justify the means way of thinking could well be justified in the slightest. The story right before Under the Hood, called War Games, ended with Roman Sionis playing everyone from the Bat family to the law to the entirety of organized crime in Gotham for fools, to end up becoming the head honcho of crime in Gotham. The dude legit kills a man on live TV, stormed the bell tower and almost killed Oracle, killed 2 of Batman's allies, and legit had people kissing the ring like he was Giordano Giovanna. Homie was a straight menace, and it was honestly great to watch. Honestly, this might be one of my favorite endings to any Batman story I've read, because the villain wins at the end, which I don't think has ever been done before or after. Too bad the quality of writing through the arc has such massive troughs to offset its peaks like this.
Oh my god, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the fuck?
But okay, that's enough gushing about Mask, since this isn't a video about him. But don't tempt me, he's an awesome villain who deserves more recognition. So yeah, Gotham's entire criminal element was completely under the control of a sadistic sociopath, Black Mask, making him the most powerful man in the city, untouchable by the law and even the Bat for the time being. By Bruce's own admission, things haven't been so bad in a very long time. Loan sharks among other less than savory enterprises have returned, and Bruce didn't even have the rest of the Bat family to help him combat this. They all left, died, or went into hiding, besides Onyx and Nightwing effectively. Things were absolutely dire in Gotham, and Bruce's personal life. Mask was nearly immune to any way Bruce could deal with him. The law was ineffective, punching the guy won't do anything, and Bruce just can't reason with, scare, or inspire this psychopath into being a better person. For the first time in a long time, Bruce was truly lost and at a low point. Knowing Batman, over time he would have figured out a way to stop Mask and restore a semblance of order, but within that time frame, how many innocent lives would have been lost and or ruined by Mask and his empire? And this is where this idiot waltzes in and decides, today I will wage a one-man war on the entirety of Gotham's underground. So now with that backdrop to the story, you could probably better understand how Jason's unhinged way of thinking could be justified in the dire situation Gotham found itself in. And the story does support this, and shows Jason's ideology to be incredibly effective, even having Bruce at that point begin to lose faith in his own cause, believing Jason to have surpassed him. Jason manages to become a rival to Mask in a staggeringly quick period of time through his actions, and is even the reason why Mask loses his stranglehold over Gotham. Criminals were no joke, 10 times more scared of Jason than they were of Bruce. Common criminals would be scared shitless of even daring to cross Red Hood, but would be willing to take a fight with Batman. Okay, now that I've finished justifying unholy amounts of homicide, let's talk about the faults and flaws of this ideology. I'm a believer in leading with your strongest argument first, so I'm going to do exactly that by saying, Jason's controlled crime ideology is not sustainable. What do I mean by that? Well, think about how Jason's methods work. His goal is to use the universal fear of death every sane man or woman has to scare the criminal element of Gotham in line to control the worst aspects of it. If crime was a banana, all Jason is doing is cutting off that brown mushy part no sane human being eats unless they're a weird freak who just came out of a year of solitary confinement. If you don't follow Jason's rules, it's clear you're not sane enough to fear death and Jason will, well, kill you. Because at that point, from his view, you are a non-negotiable evil, and the world will probably be safer without you. And if you do fear death, you will simply follow his rules and keep your peers in line so the Red Hood will be off your back. It was even shown during the story that criminals were more than willing to kill dissenters from Jason's rules for him if it meant staying on his good side. The system on paper sounds like a well-oiled machine of, well, immortality. This system on paper sounds like a well-oiled machine of immorality, and it should be if you're forgetting one thing. And what that might be, you must be wondering? Well, the forgotten little detail is simple. The whole thing hinges on Jason being alive and well enough to represent that threat of death. If Jason for whatever reason is unable to, which is a very likely scenario, since, you know, he's constantly fighting against the best of the peak human category, and sometimes even beyond that, almost entirely alone on both the hero and villain side of things. So if he has to disappear for a period of time to heal from severe injuries, or outright dies, the band-aid that is his ideology will get ripped off, and Gotham will go right back to being as shit as it always was. And wanna know why? It's because Jason fundamentally misunderstands what it means to be a hero at this point. He's so focused on the result of his actions that he misses the importance of everything he does in between point A and B. What do I mean by this? Well, think about what a traditional Cub Scout and spandex does. Besides the obvious, save people and fight the bad guy, heroes like Superman, Nightwing, and more aim to inspire others to be able to hope for a better future. They trust others and build meaningful connections with allies and the people they protect who will carry on their legacies even if they are no longer there, which slowly causes real, lasting change. While Jason, on the other hand, manipulates, fucks over, and shuts out anyone who can remotely be an ally to him. And the general populace views Jason as just another vicious mob boss who decided to take up residence in Gotham.
Prior to his arrest, Black Mask was being strong-armed by the mysterious Red Hood.
And wanna know why Jason is like that? It's because despite his claims to be fearless, Jason is still terrified of one thing. A defect he has carried with him all his life, that tragically, he could have conquered if maybe things turned out a little bit differently. Jason by this point is petrified by the idea of betrayal.
And that's why this hurts. Betrayal, kid. Life ain't strictly business.
In order for me to make this point, let me set the stage for you, my dear viewer. Jason was born into one of the most crime-infested parts of Gotham, the Narrows. raised by a small-time crook forefather, Willis Todd, who mysteriously disappeared on his mom and him without a trace, and a drug addict for a mother, Catherine Todd, who despite caring for Jason, still prioritized one thing over him. That thing being her drug addiction, which later claimed her life when she overdosed, leaving Jason orphaned. The first hard lessons Jason learns in life are, he is all alone and has never mattered that much to anyone. His father betrayed his trust by walking out on him and his mom, and he came in second place in his mother's list of priorities. The world is cruel and apathetic. There is no one coming to help or save you. The only person you can rely on is you. The only person who will keep you safe is you. The only person you can trust is you. Jason has always been a fast learner, and sadly he absorbed these lessons into his very being, manifesting into insecurities. As Jason said, he graduated from the streets of Crime Alley, and the only doors that degree opened up for him were the ones to his coffin. Even when he got into a better environment, he constantly struggled with unlearning these lessons. But just as things seemed like they were getting better, they took a severe turn for the worse, up until Jason's death, and even after, due to Jason facing betrayal from almost every single paternal figure he knew, reopening any emotional wounds that might have healed during his time under Bruce's care. From Bruce giving information about his father's disappearance from him, to Bruce putting him on leave from the role of Robin, which led Jason's insecurities, in particular his fear of abandonment, to flare up, leading Jason to search for his birth mother just in case Bruce truly does ditch him. Even after he finds his birth mother, he gets betrayed by her to the Joker because she valued covering up her own crimes over her own son's life, leading Jason to being brutally murdered. Even after being miraculously resurrected, Jason only awoke to find out he was betrayed, and came in second place in one of his parents' list of priorities once again. Jason at least thought he would matter more than Bruce's code, that his relationship with Bruce superseded the mission, that the sun came before the crusade. But reality spat in his face and confirmed all his insecurities. Jason truly didn't matter to anyone. He couldn't be someone's number one priority, not in life nor in death. And he can't trust anyone, or he will eventually have a knife in his back, emotionally or literally. All his unprocessed hurt and insecurities coalesced in the man he became post-resurrection. He tragically doubled down on all the wrong lessons he learned in his life, and it bleeds into almost every action he takes. So now the question is, how would I develop this homicidal emotional wreck into something resembling what we have now? Well, for starters, I think there's an easy point for this process to begin, and that would be right here. You couldn't ask for a better point. Jason has just hit rock bottom. Let me explain. Just before this, Jason gave Bruce his ultimatum, in which in both two versions of the story, it doesn't go the way Jason was expecting, to say the least. Effectively confirming his biggest fear and giving him closure to his relationship with Bruce, albeit a very bitter closure. Ending with a building blowing up on him, which accounting for that and all the damage he took beforehand, should leave him gravely injured, forcing him out of the action for a long period of time to heal his wounds. Now remember what I established about Jason's methods earlier? That once Jason is out of the picture, the Band-Aid will be ripped off and Gotham will return to how it was? Well, Jason gets to watch almost all his work in taking over Gotham's underground get evaporated before his eyes while recovering. And with Jason being MIA and Sionis' organization out of the picture, because of Jason, crime in Gotham is no longer unified under one person anymore. So it returns to how it was beforehand, with multiple factions and gangs vying for control. So Jason is at his lowest point, in every way imaginable. He has nothing. His worst fears got confirmed regarding Bruce. All his work got reset, and his entire ideology has been deconstructed right in front of him. All he has now is his crusade to bring peace to Gotham and a bitterness towards Bruce. But if he's going to return to his crusade, he's going to have to change his methods. It's clear his old plan was unsustainable, so where does he go now? Well, I talked about this earlier, but what Jason needs is a group of people he can trust and believe in his mission enough to carry it on even when he's not around. He needs to inspire the people he protects on some level to make any lasting change. But I can't imagine Jason figuring this one out himself, since it requires him confronting his trauma on some level. And this is where I'll introduce Jason's first supporting character. Who might this mystery character be?
Dojan!
If you guessed it's Uncle Ruckus, you are correct! Just kidding. It's Ma Gunn. I know, shocking. But the next thing that comes out of my mouth will shock you even more. I like something Scott Lobdell did.
Silence him!
Okay. Before all you guys click off the video, unsub, leave a dislike, and a nasty comment containing every profanity and slur known to man, hear me out. A reintroduction of Ma Gunn is perfect for Jason's story. She could and would bring so much to the table by being an older criminal who knows the ins and outs of Gotham's underground better than anyone, taking on kind of an alpha figure, being the person who provides aid and wisdom to Jason out of the field. So to have her retrofitted to fit the story while lining up with what Lobdell established, I'd have Ma change for the better, from being locked up with nothing but an abundance of time to reflect, realizing that her selfish pursuit of wealth has left her with nothing at the end of the day. She would do anything to have a second chance and do it all over again. But sadly, time doesn't move backwards, so she aims towards the future to make amends and leave a positive impact with whatever amount of time she has left, which she can't do rotting away in a cell. So during the riots and war games, Ma Gunn escapes Blackgate and goes into hiding in the Narrows, being aided by her granddaughter, Ma Gunn III, where they start doing community services such as taking in orphan kids, doing food drives, buying and fixing up vacant living places to get people off the streets, and so on, building up a little bit of influence among the downtrodden and unwanted members of Gotham. And how do they afford any of this with Gunn being a runaway criminal? Well, by doing what Gunn knows best, returning to crime and running cons. This leads her to run afoul of Black Mask when he was the head honcho of Gotham, putting her in hot water. But as luck would have it, someone appears taking Mask's full attention, that being the Red Hood. And as it turns out, this Red Hood guy, despite being a homicidal maniac, does seem to want to try to help make Gotham a better place, making Gunn potentially see him as a potential asset in her endeavors, at least as protection. So Gunn paid close attention to the war between Mask and Hood, and when the tides evidently start to turn in Jason's favor, with Mask being taken out of the picture, she begins to seek Jason out, where she luckily finds out where he's hiding out through some investigation. And when she arrives, she finds Batman, Joker, and the guy she's looking for all strangely collapsed in the rubble unconscious together, where she, with the aid of her granddaughter and some of her associates, collect the critically injured Jason and help nurse him back to health. Finally leading me to what I was talking about before. Ma Gunn would form an alliance through mutual interest with Jason, and help him form a somewhat new approach to crime fighting, being one of the most pivotal people in Jason's change and growth, allowing her a second chance at helping the kid she failed to aid in the past. So Jason would return to crime, but in a different way. First things first, he would shift the target demographic for the drugs he sells to the upper class and crack down sales in the lower income areas like the Narrows, where Gunn is slowly attempting to rebuild. Jason will go into more illegal businesses, like picking up bounties on wanted dangerous people. He will help Ma Gunn strong-arm property, so on and so on. The money Jason makes off of his endeavors will then be used to build up the Narrows. Through building up this community, Jason will slowly gain more allies who truly believe in what him and Ma Gunn are doing. Off the top of my head, a couple characters I would like seeing join the gang would be Killer Croc, Astrid Arkham, and Dana. But anyways, being required to work with and trust more people will clash with Jason's insecurities, and he will eventually begin to open up to those close to him, like the Gunns or Dana. Truly learning the importance of this openness through the unwavering loyalty his associates and the people of the Narrow have for him. Gradually, Jason will become less of a mob boss and more of a community figure, much like Orpheus was once the Narrow starts becoming a safer and much more self-sustaining economy. At some point, shedding away a lot of his ties to Gotham's underground to focus on the Narrows and building up other Gotham slums, whether it be protecting its citizens to providing for them, etc., etc. This does provide an avenue for Jason to organically work with the Bat family from time to time, since he's no longer a mass murdering criminal. Since Jason has at this point effectively realized the flaws of his controlled crime ideology and moved away from it, he would just be willing to kill the worst of the worst, like Joker or Black Mask, rather than Goon 121 in order to spread fear. At the end of the day, Jason will never realize his goal of bringing peace to the entirety of Gotham, because that's too big and lofty of a goal for one person, or even a small group of people to accomplish. But what he gained is a group of true outlaws and a patchwork family to try and make a truly lasting and positive difference with. Jason was correct. Crime can't truly be stopped, fought, or killed. It's a part of the human condition, but you can fight the fear, desperation, and isolation that creates crime. The very same circumstances that created Jason and sent him down his tragic path. Even if Jason truly believes it's far too late for him, his endeavors would aim to save people from falling down the very same hole he did, catching them before they fall, as a certain other bird would say. Well, I might do a video on his and Jason's relationship in the future, because I believe there's a goldmine potential there. I think this would be a very poetic path for Jason to go down, and this is actually where I would lead Jason personally. He still maintains an interesting and unique niche, with a potential for a lot of fun stories along the way as he develops into a more positive force in person.
leave this land and all its resources to you. I trust you now know this place has become something of great significance. A community to serve as an example of what this would-be nation could become. But the larger and stronger it grows, the more fragile and difficult to defend it becomes. I hope your friends who are birthing this infant country understand this truth. Your unwavering tenacity and honesty have burdened you with responsibility far greater than any one man should bear. But you, if anyone, are capable. You have given an old man hope that all is not lost. And for that, I thank you. I am grateful to have met you, knowing you will guide this land and these people to a better future. Yours in brotherhood.
So, what do you guys think? Are you guys fans of my ideas, or do they sound whack as hell? Did I do a good job of accomplishing what I set out to do in this video, or was it a flop? Please let me know why you think I'm an idiot and wrong in the comments, as well as tell me your ideal takes on Jason. I'll try to read them all, since hearing what y'all think and believe is actually pretty fun for me. Trust me, it gets me through some incredibly boring shifts at work. This is my first time doing a video breaking down a character like this and proposing an alternative for them. And honestly, I had a lot of fun making this video. It was kind of cathartic for me low-key, because one of my biggest frustrations when it comes to Jason is how there's almost no connecting tissue between what he originally was and what we have right now. The difference is so dramatic that they could unironically just be two separate different characters. So trying to throw my own 2 cents in to plug that hole was really nice. I guess building something up is just as much fun as tearing stuff down. Who would have known? So maybe expect more videos like these in the future, or maybe even a positive rant where I break down something I love and why I enjoy it. I was low-key thinking about making my next video be about my issues with Arkham Knight Jason. But honestly, despite my love for this character, after 2 videos in a row about him, I'm low-key burnt on Crowbar Kid over here. So I'm probably going to make it about something else. I'm leaning towards the topic being about the conflict between Miguel and Miles from Across the Spider-Verse, since some of the takes I see about that movie make me want to bash my skull in. Or maybe a little something about my second favorite morally gray character from DC. So stay tuned for that. Adios amigos, I hope you guys enjoyed, and see you guys in the next rant.